use that left lane.
Welcome aboard. As you climb aboard, you may also want to take a quick look up above your heads as you'll see an animal spotting guide. Now we won't see every animal on that spotting guide, but we should still have at least a decent amount of luck. The Sante Sana Warden, that does mean thank you very much in Swahili. Another word we also like to say out here in the Harambe is Twin Day, which is Swahili for let's go. Now, Jumbo everyone, my name is Christopher from Washington State, and I'll be your safari guide as we explore the Harambe Wildlife Reserve together. Now, as a last note, this does happen to be a very real truck. I'm also a very real human that is really driving this real truck. And the road out here does get real bumpy. So it's going to be real important for your safety. You please stay seated, keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the truck throughout our entire safari. Of course, if you do happen to have a camera or a phone with a camera along with you, I'd like to encourage you to take your camera out now, hang on to it tightly, and place it into a sport, action, and/or video setting. As that is one of the best ways that you please can get a quick picture of these amazing animals as we drive on through. And my friends in the second row, please put those food away. Can't have any food on board, my friends. But now we're going to head on into the Aturi Forest. Now the word Aturi is a Swahili word meaning a little. So it's literally the little forest that we are now entering. It's also where we will begin our 2-week-long safari adventure. Now over here on that right side, we do have the Okapi. The Okapi striped pants does make it look like a zebra, but it's actually the second cousin of the giraffe. Which you can tell because the shape of the Okapi skull is actually very similar to, albeit smaller than that of the giraffe. Over on that left side, you'll see two different types of antelope. The gray set without horns are the greater kudu. The greater kudu does grow to a height of up to about 55 inches or 4 feet 7 inches tall, making them the second tallest antelope on the reserve. The reddish one with horns are the bongos. The bongos are actually nicknamed the ghosts of the forest, and that's because of how reclusive they are. In fact, both the male and female bongos have horns, thus allowing them to stay hidden as they go through the thick bushes and foliage. Now I do see over here on that right-hand side some beautiful black and white birds with an orange bill, which are the saddle-billed stork. Those storks can actually stand at up to about 5 feet tall, making them roughly 5 inches taller than that of the greater kudu. They've also got an impressively long 9-foot wingspan, or up to about a 9-foot wingspan, which actually is roughly the same length as the canopy above your heads. I also see over here on our left-hand side, up on those rocks, that is, in fact, it looks like a rock, the black rhinoceros, or the black rhino. Now, the black rhino does weigh up to 3,000 pounds, and it's got a charging speed of roughly 35 miles per hour. In fact, I'm very glad that it was actually having a rest instead of charging at us. But now, my friends, it does look like we're going to be heading out of the Aturi Forest. Oh, well, we're still going to continue on a nice lengthy journey by heading down into the Safi River. Now, as we head down here into the Safi River, I can see some beautiful white birds with gray feathers, which are the pink-backed pelican. Now, these pelicans actually get their name from a pink coloration which shows up on their extremities during their mating season. Now, they are colonial nesters, which does mean that the male and female pelican will actually sit on the egg together at the same time, which I think is very romantic. You'll also see outside the water on that right side, that is the Nile hippopotamus, also called the hippo, which does weigh up to weights of 5,500 or 5,500 pounds, which makes them the heaviest animal that we have seen here on the savannah, or one of the heaviest animals, I should say. In fact, a group of hippos is actually called a bloat of hippos. Although it now does look like we're going to be heading here into an area with some taking plots, which indicates that we're nearing the Nile crocodile. Now, the crocodile does grow to lengths of up to 16 feet long. They also have weights of up to 500 pounds. They've also got an interesting divot behind their snout, or behind their nose off their snout, which actually helps to keep their snout from floating on the way, thus making them look like they are smiling at you. Although I would encourage that you never smile at a crocodile, as they've got an incredibly strong bite force of up to about 2,000 pounds per square inch, or roughly 2,000 psi. But now, friends, it does look like we're going to be heading here into a change in the foliage, which indicates that we are getting quite a bit closer to the savanna. In fact, I think I'm going to go ahead here and slowly bring us down into the savanna, and we'll try to see about getting a nice up-close and personal view of the amazing animals. We'll use the wide open spaces of the savanna as their home. In fact, I can already see down here the tallest animal on the savanna, my friends, the giraffe. Now, the giraffe does stand at a height of up to about 20 feet, and when they're born, they're already 6 feet tall. Now, a female giraffe will actually give birth standing up, which does mean that a baby giraffe or calf has roughly a 6-foot drop to the ground when it's first born. I'd say the first thing that a baby giraffe feels is gravity. But you know, friends, don't worry, as that drop does actually jumpstart the baby's lungs. So it works out okay for the baby giraffe in the end. It also looks like a nice dazzle of zebras is now making their way towards us. Now, these zebras that we have here are actually the Hartman's mountain species of zebra. They're one of the smaller species of zebra, but they've actually got the largest heart out of all species. In fact, they often use that large heart for pumping blood to their extremities in the high elevation locations like mountainous terrain that they call home. Now, I do also see it looks like we're going to be coming up here on our left-hand side, kind of way in the back. My favorite animal on the savanna, my friends, they're laying down. It's the African wild dog, or the African painted dog, or the painted wolves. Now, you know, these painted wolves are very family-oriented, as they will protect and care for not just their puppies, but also the sick and the injured members of their packs, even going so far as to mourn the loss of their deceased pack members. Sadly, though, they are a critically endangered species that used to number about 500,000 roughly 100 years ago. But now today, they number at barely 7,000. In fact, if you'd like to help support rebuilding their numbers, you can actually go online and donate to the Painted Dog Foundation at their website, painteddog.org. I do also see coming up over here on the left-hand side, those beautiful reddish antelope are the sable antelope. The sable antelope has special significance to the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. That's because they are used as the symbol of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. They're also one of the most protective of all antelope species, as they will typically sit and stand in a circular formation with their horns facing outwards, so as to much more easily protect one another from predators. But now it looks like we're going to be going through a tower of giraffe, my friends. In fact, if you were to take a look at the pattern on any pattern on any of these giraffe, you'll actually notice that they've got a very sharp and jagged edge. In fact, that sharp and jagged edge is how you can indicate that they are the Maasai species of giraffe. Now, each pattern on a giraffe is unique to the individual, as no two patterns are the same, kind of like our fingerprints. Now, as we take a look over here, it does look like we found an interesting looking cattle with very large horns. over on our right side, that is the Ankole cattle, also called the Watusi cattle. Actually, the horns on the Ankole cattle's head may look like they're very heavy, but you know, they're actually quite light and honeycombed on the inside, which actually allows blood to flow through their horns, thus allowing them to regulate their body temperature throughout the heat of the day. Now this other animal over here by the Ankole cattle is the largest antelope on the reserve, called the eland. The eland does stand at a height of up to about 6 feet tall at the shoulder. That one is probably a male. You can typically tell because he's very large, probably up to about 6 feet tall. He's also got a very large neck flap or dewlap, which is how they regulate their body temperature throughout the day. But now over here on the right side, you'll see two different species of antelope. Now the gray set are the wildebeest. In fact, a group of wildebeest is called a confusion of wildebeest and can consist of up to about 1.5 million wildebeest per migration, making them one of the largest migration herds in the world. And when they migrate, they kick up enough dust that can be seen from the International Space Station or outer space. Now there's other antelope on the right side. They look kind of like the gazelle, or my favorite antelope on the reserve, called the springbok. Now the springbok actually get their name from how they spring into motion. They can actually leap about 13 feet and hop about 6 feet into the air. Although when they do so, it isn't actually called a hop, jump, leap, or skip, as it's actually called a pronk. Now when those little guys pronk, they're very quick, as they can actually do so at up to about 60 miles per hour. They also emit a pheromone while pronking, which makes them smell very sweet, like cotton candy. So they're very sweet little guys. But now, friends, it does look like we're going to be heading here into the heaviest animal on land's territory. That's right, this is the African elephant. In fact, you can actually tell it's the African elephant for a couple of reasons. The first reason being that, well, we're in Africa. The second reason being that its ears are shaped also a little bit like Africa. Now the elephant is, of course, the heaviest animal on land, weighing up to roughly 15,000 pounds, or up to about 7.5 tons. That's roughly the same size and weight as an unladen semi-truck, actually. The elephant, on top of being an incredibly heavy animal, does also eat up to 300 pounds of foliage every single day, which actually caused them to be a bit of a pest problem to a group of farmers over in Kenya. And that's because when the elephants would walk too close to the farmers' crops, they would actually eat what they perceived as a free buffet. Naturally, that's something that those farmers obviously did not like, as they were losing a very large portion of crops to the elephants. So they wanted to get rid of the elephants. Of course, Disney didn't want the elephants losing their habitat, so they actually made use of some very special knowledge which they learned about elephants over here on the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. That knowledge being that elephants are in fact actually afraid of bees. So they took that knowledge over to Kenya, where they built a very special fence called a bee fence, or a beehive fence, around the crops. So now when the elephants walk too close to the crops, instead of eating that buffet, they disturb the fence, which disturbs the bees. The bees will then fly out and begin their buzzing, and then the elephants, upon hearing that buzz, become spooked and scared and will then go around the crops. Now that program also works out nicely for the farmers in the end as well, as they now gained a new crop, the bee's honey. In fact, you know, friends, if you'd like to support that project, you can actually go online and order some of that imported honey from Kenya. You simply just need to look up the name of the project. It's called the Elephants and Bees Project. As we head here into the water, my friends, it does look like I see ahead of us a very small parade. That is a small parade of elephants. That's what a group of elephants is called, a parade. Although that's only one of three possible names that you could call a group of elephants, as the other two being either a stampede or a herd. They're kind of way back in that. We'll try to see if we can see them a little bit closer here in a bit. Now over here on the left, this is a flamboyance of flamingos. Now these flamingos here are the greater flamingo, which are actually the largest but also least pink out of all flamingo species. Granted, that's not because they're born pink, as all flamingos are actually born either white or gray. They don't actually get the pink coloration in their feathers until they've eaten enough beta-carotene from their diet, which does actually consist mostly of shrimp, mollusks, crustaceans, and even algae. So it is actually the shrimp that turns them pink. Okay, now my friends, as we head over this here, take a look on the left side. Back in here, you'll see some elephants. That's where a parade is, it looks like. It also looks like we're now heading into southern white rhinoceros territory as well. Although I don't see any white rhinos at the moment, but that just means that they're somewhere else around here. They do like to spend a lot of time by this mud wallow, though, using it as a mud bath, which I honestly think is kind of gross. But, you know, I guess it works out okay for the white rhino. Now, the white rhino does get their name not for their skin color, but for their wide jaw, which is actually very useful for eating the grass and other foliage that grows on the ground, thus making them a grazing animal. In fact, it was even the Dutch that named them, as they called them the wide rhino, which is the Dutch word for wide. Now, that word wide was translated into the Afrikaans language as the word white, which was then mistranslated into English as the word white. Thus, that's how they became known as the white rhino. Now, over here on the left, walking towards us, my friends, that is the fastest animal on land, the cheetah. Now, the cheetah does run at speeds of up to 60 miles per hour. They can also go from 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds. That's one heck of an acceleration, actually. The cheetah is also a sprinter, though, not a marathon runner, so they can really only maintain that speed for a few hundred yards before they need to rest for just a few minutes. Now, a group of cheetah, like we can also see coming up here on our left side, my friends, is called a coalition of cheetah. Cheetah does also happen to be a member of the cat family, so just like any domestic cats that you may have at home, they are actually a feline, and so they do actually purr, which actually makes the cheetah the only large cat that purrs. Now, it does look like at this moment in time there's a very small animal stop ahead of us. Hopefully, it looks like it's clearing up now, as we're now getting ready to head here into the throne room of the jungle. Now, of course, as we are entering the throne room of the jungle, that does mean that we may now get to be able to see the king and queen of the jungle as they lie around on their thrones. Now, the king and queen of the jungle do spend a majority of their day asleep. Somewhere between 16 and 20 hours every single day, which I've actually taken to calling a lion's share of the day. Granted, that's not because they're lazy, as they often use that time to conserve their energy for when they need to hunt. Although it is the queen of the jungle who does all the hunting. As the king, he mainly stays back and protects the pride. Or as Alex say, he stays back and protects his pride. Now, I do see coming up here ahead of us, over here on our right side, you're going to see the largest flightless bird in the world, the ostrich. In fact, it looks like also there's one over here on the left as well. Now, the ostrich does weigh up to, or does run at up to 45 miles an hour. And even though they are flightless, they do actually have wings. Their wings are very useful, obviously not for flight, but for changing their direction during a run. You'll also see on that right side a crash of southern white rhinos as well. Now, the white rhino does weigh up to 5,000 pounds, making them up to about 2,000 pounds heavier than that of the black rhino that we saw earlier. Although they still have the same charging speed of up to 35 miles an hour. So talk about a crash. But now, friends, it looks like we found ourselves over here on our left side, the king and queen of the jungle. Yeah, it does look like they're lying around right now. I actually like to say those two lions up there, my friends, are Simba and Nala. It's actually because he was actually used as the model for Simba in the live-action Lion King. So he literally is Simba. I even went so far as to name my truck after him. And they call the name of this truck that you're riding on the Simba 1. Which, if you happen to have any wilderness explorers on board, you're going to want to remember the name of this truck, as Simba 1 is used as a code word to help you earn your safari badge once you get back into the Harambe village. Now over here on the left side, my friends, this is the largest burrowing animal in the world, the warthog. Now the warthog has 2 sets of tusks. The largest set on top is one they used to dig those large burrows on the left. The smaller set underneath is actually razor sharp and used primarily for defense. Of course, there is a very famous warthog that you've identified correctly as Pumbaa. Now Pumbaa is actually a Swahili word for foolish. Now I like to say Pumbaa himself might be rather foolish, but those little warthogs sure aren't, as they will often like to back into their burrows to help protect themselves from predators while they sleep. Now I also see coming up over here on our right side, my friends, that is a very small collection of eggs, which are actually the largest egg in the world, the ostrich egg. In fact, each egg weighs up to about 3 pounds and can even support the weight of a fully grown human. So those shells are very thick. But now, friends, it does look like we're going to be heading here into a ranger outpost or a warden post. Although the rangers that are stationed here aren't human, but all that means is that communicating with them is a real challenge. And they are very successful rangers that take their job as ranger quite seriously. In fact, I even like to say that these rangers are the GOAT. So my friends, why don't I bring you in and present to you our small and adorable herd of Nigerian dwarf goats that we have acting as our rangers. In fact, if you were to even look these goats in the eye, you'll notice that they have rectangular pupils. Now, those rectangular pupils gives them a very wide peripheral vision, far wider than an animal with circular pupils such as ourselves would have. That's why I like to say that they are very successful rangers. They are also the only animal on the Harambe Wildlife Reserve that you can actually pet while you're over here at Disney's Animal Kingdom. In fact, if you'd like to pet one of them, simply head into the Harambe village and look for Rafiki's PlanIt Watch, which is where you're going to board a short 5-minute train ride called the Wildlife Express, which will take you into the conservation station. Now, once at the conservation station, you really just need to make a short walk over to the affection section, which is where you're going to find an affectionately named petting zoo that's got the Nigerian dwarf goat, among other animals. Of course, now, my friends, it does look like we're going to be heading here into... we've seen a lot of very cool animals here on this Phantom, my friends, and sadly a large number of those animals are suffering from habitat loss due to our modern society. But now we here at Disney are working tirelessly to preserve and protect all animals and their habitats for future generations. And we do that with programs like the Disney Conservation Fund, although we still need as much help as we can get. Now it is my hope that seeing these amazing animals on your safari inspires you to get involved in any way you can. Honestly, if you don't, you really will. Plus, if you decide to help while at Disney Animal Kingdom, there is a very simple way to do so. All you have to do is approach any merchandise location in the Harambe village, as Disney will actually match any donation given, dollar for dollar, which I honestly think is so cool. Of course, now, my friends, it does look like we're nearing the edge of the Harambe, as I recognize that familiar music coming from the Harambe village. That does sadly mean that our time together has been cut very short, unfortunately. But, my friends, I honestly do not like to say goodbye. That is because that word goodbye is just far too sad and also far too final. So instead, I'll leave you with this Swahili word of kwaheri, which does mean to go well. So my friends, may you all go well, go wild, go make a positive impact out there on our planet. That's what is most important. And then lastly, friends, may you all go see as many animals as you possibly can at Disney's Animal Kingdom or wherever else your journey may take you as well. Holding. And now lastly, friends, on that right there, watch those hands over feet and doors are opening. Watch your head as up as you disembark. Double check those roads. Make sure you're not going to forget anything, as it is a long walk back to Africa. And may you all have a wild rest of your day here at Disney's Animal Kingdom or wherever else your journey may take you. Quality, everyone have a wild time out there. We're five.
Probably that is okay. We can work on that. 1 and 4.
Hey, Sean.
Mira, sin beneficio.